You were never meant to know this. Not the names, not the places, and certainly not the things buried in the shadows of history's record books. But the truth doesn't vanish when it's hidden. It waits. And it watches. Imagine a vault, sealed for thousands of years, not with a lock, but with a silence so absolute it becomes part of the air. A silence enforced by kings, priests, generals, and something older than all of them. A silence you've been living inside your entire life without realizing it. Every culture has its mysteries, the stories they say cannot be explained. We treat them like riddles for entertainment, museum displays, coffee table curiosities. But that's a lie. The deeper you look, the more you realize these are not isolated puzzles. They are fractures in the official story, the points where the smooth surface of history shatters and something ancient, raw, and dangerous stares back at you. This isn't about legends. This is about structures the modern world still can't recreate. Artifacts that seem engineered for minds, not shaped like ours. Whole civilizations that appear out of nowhere and vanish without leaving even the bones of their dead. Ask yourself, what's more likely? That every one of these is a coincidence, or that they're fragments of a reality humanity once knew and was made to forget? Men in power have always known something about controlling the story. Control the story, you control perception. Control perception, and you control the limits of what a man believes he can be. You don't have to chain him. He'll build the cage himself. But these unsolved mysteries, they're cracks in the bars. If you lean close enough, you might glimpse a world where the rules you've been told to obey never existed. A world where knowledge was not owned by institutions, but by those strong enough to claim it. We're going to walk through those cracks together. One step at a time, deeper and deeper, until the light from the surface is gone. When we're done, you will not be the same man you were when we began. Because this is the kind of knowledge you don't just learn, it changes you. And once you've heard it, there is no way back. Beneath the rolling green hills of Shanxi, there is a chamber that no living man has entered in over 2,000 years. It is not just a tomb, it is a declaration. A message carved into the earth itself by the first emperor of a united China, Qin Shi Huang, the man who turned warring kingdoms into an empire and then sealed that empire inside himself. You've seen the terracotta warriors in photographs, thousands of clay soldiers, each with a different face, standing in silent ranks. What they don't tell you is that these soldiers are only the gatekeepers. They guard the entrance to a subterranean city, a world the emperor took with him into death. Inside, ancient texts say, are rivers of mercury flowing through a replica of his empire, ceilings painted with the constellations, walls lined with gold, jade, and relics that may hold knowledge older than China itself. The Chinese government knows it's there. So do their archaeologists. But they will not open it, not because they can't, but because they understand something you're not supposed to. Some doors are not meant to be unsealed until the right hands hold the key. And maybe those hands haven't been born yet. When modern scans detected mercury levels in the soil hundreds of times above normal, it confirmed what the old chronicles said. Mercury, the metal alchemists believed could grant immortality, was used to create rivers that would flow forever. Even in death, Qin Shi Huang would command the illusion of eternal life. Think about the psychology here. The emperor wasn't just building a tomb, he was encoding a power structure in stone and poison. A warning to every ruler who came after him: true authority doesn't die. It buries itself where only the worthy can awaken it. The official story is about preservation and safety. The real story: opening that tomb could shatter the carefully curated narrative of human history in the East. It might reveal technologies, maps, or texts that suggest China, or something before China, held knowledge capable of rewriting the world order. Right now, the entrance sits under a mound of earth. Farmers walk past it. Tourists photograph it. But inside, in the dark, the emperor still rules. His warriors still wait, and the rivers still flow, not of water, but of liquid metal, shimmering in the blackness like the veins of a sleeping god. Some men build monuments to be remembered. Others erase their footsteps so completely that even the earth forgets where they stood. Genghis Khan chose the latter, and in doing so, he achieved a kind of immortality no stone pyramid could match. When the great Khan died in 1227, he left behind the largest empire the world has ever seen, an empire forged through fire, discipline, and a vision so ruthless it bent nations to his will. Yet he gave one final order. No one is to know where I am buried. The legends vary, but they all agree on one thing: secrecy enforced with blood. Every man who carried his body home killed everyone they met along the way. Those who dug the grave were executed. Those who executed them were killed in turn. Then 1,000 horses trampled the site until the earth looked untouched. Some say rivers were diverted over it. Others whisper of forests planted to erase it completely. Think about the psychology of this. Genghis Khan understood that the power of a man's name could be corrupted, sold, or worshipped by fools. But a mystery becomes a weapon. It commands respect because no one can desecrate what they cannot find. For the Mongols, the burial site isn't a treasure map, it's a sacred boundary. They believe disturbing it would curse the land and dishonor their greatest leader. That belief is so strong that even today, in the age of drones, satellites, and ground-penetrating radar, the people who live near the suspected area refuse to allow excavations. It's not just superstition, it's cultural armor. But here's the question no one wants to ask. What if the tomb isn't just bones and gold? What if it contains war plans, treaties, or records of alliances that never made it into history books? What if it holds proof that the Mongol Empire was plugged into an even older network of power, one that spanned continents long before you, Rope, discovered them? The location is still unknown. The mountains watch in silence. And somewhere, under the grasslands, the man who once held half the world in his grasp still lies beyond the reach of every government, every archaeologist, every king. Not forgotten, just untouchable. In 1890, in the quiet French village of Castelnau, a man named Georges Vacher de la Pouge dug into a Bronze Age burial mound and pulled out bones that should not exist. A section of femur, part of a tibia, a fragment of an arm bone. At first glance, human. But their dimensions told another story. They belonged to a being over 11 feet tall. You've been told that humans have always been roughly our current size, give or take a little. Our textbooks say there was no race of giants. That stories of the Nephilim, the Anakim, or the Cyclopes are just myths. But here was something physical, something that could not be explained away so easily. Lapouge sent the bones to the University of Montpellier. Leading experts examined them. They confirmed these were human. Not bear, not dinosaur, not mistake. And then, they were gone. Vanished from the record. No museum shelf, no research archive, no re-examination with modern science. The evidence that could have rewritten human evolutionary history simply disappeared. Now ask yourself, what's more likely? That the bones were lost through carelessness, or that they were buried twice? Once in the earth. Once in the vaults of an institution that decided the world wasn't ready. Because if giants once walked among us, then everything changes. It would mean entire chapters of our species' history have been erased. It would mean we are not the pinnacle of human design, but merely the survivors of a world where bigger, stronger, and possibly smarter humans existed, and perhaps were eliminated. Why eliminate them? Because their very existence would destroy the carefully maintained illusion that civilization has been on a steady, linear climb from primitive man to modern man. It would raise questions about where we came from, who we really are, and what other forms of us may have existed, or still exist. The villagers of Ka now still speak of a cave where a giant once lived. The 19th century newspapers whispered that Lapouge had unlocked a forbidden truth. But without the bones, all we have is a shadow, and the suspicion that someone, somewhere, decided this truth was too dangerous for the public to hold. In the hills of Zhejiang province, China, there's a place the locals called bottomless ponds. For centuries, no one questioned them, until 1992, when villagers decided to drain one. What they found was not a natural pond at all, but the entrance to an impossible underground city. Carved entirely into solid siltstone, the Longyu caves cover 320,000 square feet. Every wall, every pillar, every ceiling is marked with perfectly parallel chisel lines, as if a single massive machine had carved them. And yet, each stroke is hand-precise. There are no signs of soot or torch burns, no debris from construction, no ancient writings explaining who built them, why they were made, or how. The stone removed from the site, millions of cubic feet, is nowhere to be found. Mainstream archaeologists can't place them. The tools required would not exist for thousands of years after their supposed construction. Some say they are 2,000 years old. Others insist much older, built before recorded Chinese history. But here's the unnerving part. The design is not unique. From Turkey's Derinkuyu to India's Ellora caves, from the hypogeums of Malta to subterranean temples in Peru, the same architectural fingerprints appear. Same smooth finishes, same geometric precision, same vanishing act of origin and purpose. What does that mean? Either ancient civilizations scattered across the world somehow developed the exact same techniques, without contact, or there was a single global knowledge source feeding them all. A source that disappeared, or was taken away. Some theorists claim these sites were not dwellings at all, but vaults, shelters from a cataclysm, or storage for knowledge too advanced for the age in which it existed. And just like the bones in Castelnau, there is a pattern here. Monumental evidence with no explanation, and a silence from official history so loud it almost feels like an order. If there was an ancient, interconnected world, one that survived in stone but not in writing, the Longyu caves may be the keyhole through which we glimpse it. But keys can be turned both ways, and some doors are meant to be locked forever. In 1938, in the ruins of an ancient village near Baghdad, workers unearthed a small clay jar. It was only 6 inches tall, nothing remarkable at first glance. Inside, a copper cylinder encased an iron rod, sealed with asphalt. To a casual eye, it looked like a strange storage container. But when the German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig examined it, he recognized the design. Not as pottery, as a power source. When the jar was filled with an acidic liquid, vinegar, lemon juice, it generated an electrical current. 2,000 years before the first modern battery, the Baghdad battery, as it came to be called, rewrote what was possible for ancient technology. If electricity existed in antiquity, what was it powering? Crude plating of jewelry, as some suggest, or something far more sophisticated, because this was not a one-off. Other jars, with similar configurations, have been found scattered across Mesopotamia. Their presence hints not at an accidental discovery, but at a system. And systems imply users. Now imagine pairing this with the engineering knowledge of the Longyu caves, or with the monumental precision of the pyramids. What kind of devices could have been powered? Lighting for underground cities? Electromagnetic tools for carving stone? Or machines designed to store or transmit information? Official history shrugs, calling the Baghdad battery an anomaly, a curiosity, nothing more. But that's the same word they use for every piece that doesn't fit the puzzle they've pre-approved. And here's where the pattern sharpens. When something emerges that doesn't match the narrative, it's isolated, presented as a quirk, a footnote, an oddity without context. Because context is dangerous. Context connects dots. The Baghdad battery could be a relic of a lost technological lineage, one that ancient civilizations inherited but did not invent. A lineage that was as erased, except for the pieces that slipped through the cracks. The real question isn't how it worked. It's why someone wanted us to believe it never existed in the first place. In 1901, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon a shipwreck. Amidst the bronze statues and amphorae was something encrusted in coral, a lump of gears fused together by centuries underwater. When it was cleaned and studied, experts froze. This was no simple clockwork. It was a mechanical computer. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be known, could predict the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with incredible accuracy. It calculated eclipses, tracked Olympic cycles, and adjusted for the irregularities in the moon's orbit. It used a system of bronze gears so precise that similar tolerances wouldn't appear again until the 18th century. Mainstream history insists such devices were impossible for its era, the 1st century BCE. Yet here it was, undeniable, sitting in plain view. Who built it? No one knows. The Greeks had no known predecessors in gearwork of that complexity. The technology seems to appear fully formed, with no developmental trail behind it, like finding a Ferrari in the ruins of a horse-drawn cart factory. The official narrative calls it a lost invention, implying that it was made once, then forgotten for over 1,000 years. But that explanation feels like a sedative, a story told to lull us into ignoring the bigger question. Because there are hints of others. Fragments of similar gearing found elsewhere. Ancient texts describing star computers and machines of the heavens. Even in Babylonian records, there are references to devices used to speak with the sky. If the Baghdad battery hints at ancient electricity, and the Long U caves prove precision engineering, then the Antikythera mechanism suggests advanced computation. 3 pieces of a machine we're told never existed. But if this is a machine, then somewhere there must be a blueprint. And if there's a blueprint, there's a designer. History doesn't just forget something like this. It buries it. And whoever buries something of this magnitude isn't just hiding the past. They're protecting the present from knowing it. In 1994, on a barren hilltop in southeastern Turkey, a Kurdish shepherd's shovel struck stone. What emerged was not a rock. It was a carved pillar, smooth, deliberate, impossibly ancient. When archaeologists arrived, they uncovered circles of T-shaped monoliths, each weighing up to 20 tons. The stones were carved with intricate reliefs of animals, lions, snakes, vultures. The precision was breathtaking, the artistry unmistakable. And then came the shock. Carbon dating placed Göbekli Tepe at over 11,000 years old. That's 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, older than the wheel, older than agriculture. According to the official story, humans at that time were nomadic hunter-gatherers. No cities, no farming, no complex religion, and certainly no megalithic architecture. Yet here was a temple city, built on a monumental scale, requiring advanced planning, labor organization, and astronomical alignment. The site was intentionally buried around 8,000 BCE. Not eroded, not abandoned, buried under tons of soil. Someone wanted it hidden. Why? If Göbekli Tepe had remained visible, it would have destroyed the established timeline of civilization centuries ago. It proves that humans, or someone, had advanced knowledge long before the first civilizations of Sumer and Egypt. And there's another problem. The carvings show animals that don't match the local fauna of the time. Some match species that were supposedly extinct. Others seem almost hybrid, like a memory from an older world that didn't survive into ours. If the Longyu caves are the bones of a lost age, and the Antikythera mechanism is its mind, then Göbekli Tepe might be its heart, a monument to something we were never meant to remember. Because if the timeline collapses here, the entire structure of human history collapses with it. And when history collapses, so does the control it has over us. For C. Section 9, I can take us to Puma Punku in Bolivia, where stonework so precise it's almost machine-cut suggests tools and knowledge thousands of years ahead of schedule. That's where the suppression pattern turns from suspicious to impossible to ignore. High in the Bolivian Andes lies a ruin that doesn't fit anywhere on the timeline. Puma Punku. Scattered across the plateau are massive stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. But it's not the size that shatters the story, it's the precision. These stones aren't rough-hewn. They're cut with laser-like accuracy, their edges so straight they form perfect 90-degree angles. Many have deep, precise grooves and perfectly drilled holes, the kind that would require industrial tools even today. Yet according to the textbooks, Puma Punku was built by the Tiwanaku people, with bronze chisels and stone hammers. No writing system, no wheels, no metal tools harder than copper. The fit between some stones is so tight you can't slip a razor blade between them. Not a single drop of mortar holds them together, only geometry and gravity. Geologists point out something more disturbing. Many of these blocks are andesite and diorite, stones so hard they can only be cut with diamond-tipped tools. Bronze? Forget it. It's like trying to shape steel with your fingernails. So how was it done? Mainstream archaeologists mumble about trial and error, ingenuity, and simple tools. But they never explain the symmetrical H-shaped stones, each matching the others with millimeter perfection. They never explain why some blocks bear the marks of high-speed rotary drills, technology they say didn't exist for thousands of years. And they definitely never explain why the site appears to have been destroyed in a single, cataclysmic event, as if it wasn't abandoned, but shattered. Puma Punku doesn't just hint at lost technology, it screams it. And the more you look, the more it feels less like ancient ruins, and more like the wreckage of a civilization surgically removed from history. Far out in the Pacific Ocean, on the island of Pohnpei, lies a place the locals call the City of the Ghosts. Nan Madol. It's a sprawling complex of more than 90 man-made islets, crisscrossed by tidal canals, a stone Venice in the middle of nowhere. The structures are built from massive basalt columns, each weighing up to 50 tons. Some stand stacked like giant logs, others interlocked into walls towering over the lagoon. Here's the problem. These stones came from quarries miles away, across jungles and over water. The people of Pohnpei, centuries ago, had no cranes, no pulleys, no beasts of burden. They didn't even have a wheel. So how did they move tens of thousands of these multi-ton stones across treacherous terrain and then lift them into place? Local legends claim the builders used floating stones, levitated into position with chance and lost magic. Western historians scoff at this, but they don't provide a better answer. Because even with today's technology, recreating Nan Madol in its exact location would be a logistical nightmare. Even stranger, the city sits directly atop a submerged coral reef, offering no natural foundation. This means every single stone had to be placed by human hands, precisely balanced so the structures wouldn't sink. The site's purpose is still debated. Was it a royal residence, a ceremonial center, a prison for the powerful? The truth may be darker. Archaeologists have found no signs of farming, no fresh water sources, and no evidence of a sustainable population. It's as if Nan Madol was never meant for ordinary life, only for ritual, isolation, and control. And when the last rulers of Nan Madol died, the jungle began swallowing it whole, as if the sea itself wanted its secret back. In the heart of Pakistan's Indus Valley lie the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead. Once a thriving city of 40,000 people, with grid-like streets, advanced drainage systems and multi-story homes, it was centuries ahead of its time. And then, it was gone. What's most disturbing is how it vanished. Archaeologists uncovered dozens of skeletons lying face down in the streets, as if death struck suddenly, mid-step. Many were fused to the earth, their bones showing signs of exposure to temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. Nearby, patches of the city's stonework are fused into glass, the kind of vitrification only possible through intense, rapid heat, like an explosion. No volcano, no meteor impact, no natural disaster explains it. But ancient texts from India, like the Mahabharata, describe weapons that could burn the earth and cause hair and nails to fall out, eerily similar to radiation sickness. One passage speaks of a single projectile charged with the power of the universe, unleashing heat like 10,000 suns. In modern terms, it sounds like a nuclear blast. Radiation surveys in parts of Mohenjo-Daro show higher than normal readings, something no other Bronze Age site can claim. Mainstream historians dismiss this as coincidence, but they cannot explain the melted stone, the sudden mass death, or why the city was abandoned and never rebuilt. If true, it would mean that 4,000 years ago, human beings, or something else, wielded weapons so advanced we can barely comprehend them today. And the worst part? If history could bury something like that, what else has it erased? In 1938, in the suburbs of Baghdad, workers stumbled upon a small clay jar sealed with asphalt. Inside was a copper cylinder, and within that, an iron rod. It looked harmless, insignificant. But when German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig examined it, he recognized something chilling. The arrangement was almost identical to a modern galvanic cell, a battery. Tests showed that if the jar were filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it could produce a small but steady electrical current. The jar dates back to the Parthian or Sassanid period, over 2,000 years ago. This was a time when history tells us electricity simply didn't exist. Yet here it was, in a sealed container, centuries before Alessandro Volta was even born. The implications are staggering. Why would ancient Mesopotamians need electricity? Some theorize it was used for electroplating gold onto silver. Others whisper it powered something far stranger, devices or technologies lost to time. What disturbs researchers most is that the Baghdad battery wasn't found alone. Similar artifacts have turned up across the region, suggesting it wasn't an isolated curiosity, but part of a larger, forgotten practice. If ancient cultures understood electricity, what else did they know? And if they could generate it in such a simple way, what might a more advanced version have looked like? The Baghdad battery now sits in the National Museum of Iraq, or at least it did, before it vanished during the chaos of the 2003 invasion. Its disappearance adds yet another layer to the mystery, as if someone wanted to make sure we never connected all the dots. High in the Peruvian Andes, just outside the ancient city of Cusco, stands a fortress called Sacsayhuaman. Its walls are built from massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. Yet they fit together so perfectly that not even a razor blade can slip between them. Mainstream historians tell us the Inca built it with bronze chisels and manpower, but the Inca themselves said otherwise. They claimed the walls were built by the gods long before their time. The stonework is unlike anything else in the Inca Empire, as if they inherited it rather than constructed it. These blocks weren't simply stacked. Each is shaped with dozens of angles, locking together in a way that makes the walls earthquake-proof, a necessity in this seismic region. To move them, modern engineers would require cranes, hydraulic lifts, and precision cutting tools. Yet somehow, the builders did it without steel, without wheels, without even the arch. Some researchers propose that the stones were softened with a mysterious plant-based chemical, allowing them to be molded like clay before hardening again. Others suggest advanced cutting tools, possibly powered by a technology we've forgotten. And then there are the more radical theories, that the walls are remnants of a civilization so advanced, their techniques now look like magic to us. Walk among the towering zigzag walls, and you can feel it, the weight of a history that doesn't add up. These stones don't just stand against time, they stand against the very story we've been told about who we are. In 1986, off the coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan, a diver searching for hammerhead sharks found something unexpected, the sharp edge of a massive stone structure buried beneath the waves. As he swam closer, the seabed dropped away into a series of vast terraces, steps, and platforms carved with mathematical precision. The so-called Yonaguni Monument is nearly 75 feet high and almost 500 feet long. Some steps are as crisp and uniform as those of a modern stadium. There are straight walls, sharp corners, and what appear to be roads and courtyards. In one section, divers swear they've found carvings resembling ancient symbols. Mainstream geologists argue it's all natural, just sandstone eroded by ocean currents. But marine archaeologists counter that the monument's geometry is far too precise to be the product of blind erosion. Some even claim it's a sunken city, built over 10,000 years ago, when sea levels were much lower, a time that would place its construction before the end of the last ice age. If that's true, Yonaguni would be evidence of an advanced coastal civilization that existed thousands of years before Egypt's pyramids, one capable of architecture that still inspires awe today. But if it's man-made, then why is it underwater? Was it swallowed by a sudden flood? Perhaps the same global deluge remembered in flood myths around the world. As you drift over its silent steps, you can't help but feel you're trespassing in a place abandoned not because it failed, but because something far greater erased it. Beneath the sands of Saqqara, in a network of tunnels carved deep into the bedrock, lies the Serapeum, a place that defies explanation. Inside its pitch-black corridors rest 24 massive granite boxes, each weighing up to 80 tons, with their lids alone tipping the scales at 30 tons. These are not crude coffins. Their surfaces are polished to a mirror finish. The corners are perfectly squared, and the interiors are machined with such precision that even modern diamond-tipped saws would struggle to match it. Egyptologists say they were built to hold sacred Apis bulls, mummified and laid to rest as offerings to the gods. But there's a problem. The sarcophagi are far larger than any bull, and moving them into the underground chambers would have been nearly impossible with the tools of the time. Somehow the ancient builders transported and positioned these behemoths through tunnels barely wide enough to pass them. The official story insists they were carved with copper chisels and stone hammers. Yet copper is softer than granite. It would take decades of constant labor just to shape one box. And the interior cuts show no sign of the hand tools we'd expect. Instead, they bear the hallmarks of high-speed machinery, the kind we've only developed in the last century. Were these boxes truly tombs for sacred bulls, or were they something else entirely? Energy storage devices, vaults for knowledge, or artifacts of a forgotten age whose technology was lost before history began? Down in the silence of the Serapeum, the air is heavy, as if the stone itself is guarding a secret. From the frozen ruins of Göbekli Tepe to the sunken steps of Yonaguni, from the granite vaults of Saqqara to the blood-stained stones of forgotten temples, the message is the same. We are not the first. Every civilization believes itself to be the pinnacle of history. Yet scattered across the earth are structures that whisper of engineers, artisans, and thinkers who walked this world long before our textbooks begin. Their works are etched in megaliths too heavy for our cranes, in symbols too complex for our deciphering, and in alignments too precise to be accidental. The official record insists these anomalies are coincidences, mistakes, or the handiwork of primitive hands with nothing but patience and stone tools. But that explanation feels like a lullaby, sung to keep us asleep. Because if even one of these sites is the remnant of a lost civilization, then our entire understanding of human history collapses. It would mean that we are living in the shadow of giants, and we have forgotten their names. Maybe that's the true purpose of the ruins, not to tell us who they were, but to warn us that they too fell. And if history moves in cycles, their fate may already be waiting for us,